She built everything with him. 10 years of love, sacrifice, and prayer. Then one Thursday morning, he walked out the door and never came back. And before she could even wipe her tears, his family arrived, not to mourn him, to take everything he left behind. If today is your first time coming across my channel, and you love what this channel does, and you would like to follow up for more stories like this, please turn on your notification bell by subscribing. Drop a comment. Have you ever watched someone lose everything they built, simply because they lost the person beside them? Share this with someone who needs to hear Angela's story today. Now sit back, because this story is about to begin. Before Fred, there was Angela. And Angela was not waiting for anyone. She had her own boutique in Abuja, built with her own savings and her own determination. 28 years old and already somebody, quietly and deliberately building her own life. The kind of woman who does not need to announce herself, because everything about her already speaks. It was a Saturday afternoon at an Abuja mall, and Angela was there for business, not love. But across the aisle, a man saw her and something in him simply stopped. Not just her beauty, something in the way she moved, like a woman who knew exactly where she was going. Fred had just found the woman he did not know he had been looking for. He found a reason to be in the same aisle. The opening line was ordinary. Angela gave him the look that city women give men who try, patient, measuring, already calculating how quickly this would go nowhere. But Fred did not perform. He simply said her name once, quietly, like he was storing it somewhere important. She almost said no. She gave him her number anyway. And that one small decision changed everything. Fred called when he said he would call. That alone set him apart. He told her early. What she saw was what there was. No performance. No version of himself designed to impress. Angela, who had spent years with men who were always performing something, found this completely disarming. 1 year later, the glass she had kept around her heart was gone. She had not even noticed it dissolving. Angela was not the kind of woman who talked about men easily. Miriam knew this better than anyone. So when she walked into the boutique that afternoon with that particular look on her face, Miriam put everything down and waited. Angela said yes. There is this man. We've been talking some months now, and the way she said it told Miriam everything she needed to know. Months turned into a year and some months. Fred did not cut corners. He came for her the proper way. His mother, his sister, family elders, everything tradition required, presented with full respect and ceremony. Angela sat beside her mother watching Fred's family and thought, this man does not do anything halfway. She was right. He never did anything halfway. Not once. They got married on a Saturday in April. Not the biggest wedding, but the most intentional one. Fred held her hand at the altar like a man who understood exactly what he was holding. Angela looked at him and she thought that this would be till old age. She was wrong. The first apartment was a rented 3-bedroom flat. Small, modest theirs. Fred was learning real estate from the inside. Angela was keeping her boutique running. Both of them showing up every single day. Some months were tight. Some evenings were hard. But they always faced it from the same side. That is what real partnership looks like. Not when life is easy, but when it is not. The one shadow in those early years was the child that did not come. They went to doctors quietly, prayed quietly, held each other in the dark quietly. Fred never let Angela carry that weight alone. He stood between her and every comment and every question. 3 years of waiting. 3 years of holding faith with both hands and refusing to let go. It was a Tuesday evening, end of year 3, when Angela took the test alone in the bathroom. She had learned to manage her hope carefully around these tests. She did not want to fall again. 2 lines appeared. She walked to the living room doorway. Fred looked up and saw her face and stood up immediately. They sat on the floor together, holding a small plastic test, crying and laughing in the way only people who have waited too long can cry and laugh. She was born 9 months later. Small, loud, certain from her very first breath. Fred held her for the first time, and something happened to his face that Angela had never seen before and would never forget. Not just joy, recognition. Like meeting someone he had been expecting for a very long time. They named her Zirachi, God's answer, because that is exactly what she was. Fred went out on his own in real estate, and he built something real. Buying land, developing property, closing deals that made people say his name with respect in Abuja circles. He had started with nothing but a vision and the willingness to outwork everyone around him. By year 5, people were calling him. By year 8, he had become somebody that Abuja property market could not ignore. While Fred was building his name in real estate, Angela was building her own empire in fashion. She expanded the boutique, took on staff, moved to a bigger shop space in a better location. What started as one woman and her savings had become something that gave other people work and income. Angela did not ride on her husband's success. She built her own, right beside his. And in year 8 of their marriage, they moved into their own duplex in Abuja. Fully theirs, fully paid. The physical evidence of everything they had built with their hands and their faith. Fred, Angela, and Zirachi. A family of 3 standing in the home they earned together. This was not luck. This was 10 years of 2 people refusing to quit on each other or on the dream. Underneath the success and the beautiful home, there was one quiet ache that never fully left. They had hoped for another child. Zirachi was their miracle, and they knew it. But the hope stayed. There were evenings Fred would watch Zirachi sleeping, and Angela would come stand beside him in the doorway. No words needed. Just 2 people holding the same quiet gratitude and the same quiet longing at the same time. It was an ordinary Thursday in November. Nothing about it announced itself as significant. Fred woke at 6, dressed, came to the kitchen where Angela was making tea. They talked about ordinary things. He kissed Zirachi's forehead while she slept. He did this every morning without fail. Then he picked up his keys, looked back at Angela one last time, and walked out the door. The phone rang at 10:47. Unknown number. Angela answered with mild irritation. The voice on the other end was careful and professional in the way hospital voices are careful when they are about to end someone's world. There had been an accident. Could she come to the hospital? Could she come as soon as possible? She did not remember putting on her shoes. She did not remember the taxi. She only remembered arriving and knowing. The doctor came out with that particular expression, the one they never get used to wearing. He said, "I am so sorry. We did everything we could." He was brought in already. He did not finish the sentence. He did not need to. Angela sat down on a plastic hospital chair. Not because she chose to. Because her legs made a decision her mind had not yet approved. Miriam arrived before Angela had stood up from that plastic chair. She did not ask questions. She did not try to find the right words because she knew there were none. She sat down beside her, took her hand, and stayed. That is what true friendship looks like. Not words, not solutions. Just the willingness to sit in the dark with someone. At some point, Zirachi was collected from school. At some point that evening, Angela had to find words for something that has no words. Zirachi asked, "When is Daddy coming home?" Angela held her daughter's face in both hands and said, Daddy went to be with God, my love. He is not coming back home. No mother should ever have to say those words. Angela said them anyway, because someone had to. And there was nobody else. Her daughter's face went very still. Then it crumbled completely. They held each other on the living room floor of the duplex that Fred built, mother and daughter, in the home that still smelled like him, grieving together for the man who had kissed Zirachi's forehead that morning while she was sleeping, the man who would never do it again. His shoes were still by the front door, exactly where he placed them. His coffee mug was still on the kitchen counter, the last thing his hands had touched before he left. The home was full of his absence, warm and beautiful and completely, permanently changed. Fred was everywhere in that apartment, and nowhere. The call to the village was made that evening. Miriam made it because Angela could not. When Mama Fred heard the news, her cry came through the phone and reached Angela across the room. They were the same cry, different mouths. The same loss. Some grief does not need translation. It crosses every distance and arrives exactly as it left. The news rippled through the Anambra family compound with wailing and gathering, and the organized chaos of an Igbo family receiving death. Mama Fred's grief was real, immediate, without agenda. She had lost her son. The cry that left her body that night was the most honest thing in that compound. Everything else that happened that night was not. But in the spaces between the wailing, when the women went to the kitchen and the men were left alone, something else began. Questions were being asked that had nothing to do with who Fred was, and everything to do with what Fred had left behind. By the following morning, they were already organizing transport to Abuja. They arrived the next morning. Mama Fred came through the door first and took Angela into her arms. That embrace was real. Two women grieving the same man, holding each other at the doorway of the home he built. Mama Fred loved Angela. That was never the question. The question was whether love would be enough to stop what was already coming through that same door behind her. But behind Mama Fred, the uncles entered with a different energy entirely, Nenzi and Dyke. Their condolences were brief. Their eyes were busy moving around the room, reading the apartment, noting the furniture, the television, the shelves, taking inventory. In the home of a widow who had not yet buried her husband. And Chinedu walked past Angela without a proper word and sat down in Fred's chair. The main chair. The chair that everyone who knew Fred knew belonged to him. He sat in it like a man who had already decided something. Miriam, watching from across the room, went completely still. Nobody had said anything wrong yet. Nothing that could be pointed to directly, but something was in that room that had nothing to do with grief, and everything to do with what a dead man leaves behind. Angela felt it. She looked at Mama Fred. She looked at the uncles. She looked at Chinedu in Fred's chair, and she understood the people standing in her home were not all there for the same reason. She stood in her own home, beneath the wedding photo of the man she had given 10 years of her life to, surrounded by his family, surrounded by people who had come wearing grief like a costume, and somewhere underneath her own pain, something in Angela was already deciding. She had not spoken it yet. But it was already there, quiet, certain, unbreakable. This is only the beginning. What happens next will make your blood boil. Episode 2 is coming. And Fred had a secret that nobody in that room was ready for.